So it's called the Magnus Archives. It's very, very good. The premise is research organization that researches paranormal and stuff. And it's told in the form of the main character, Jonathan Sims, recording statements about different horror experiences other people have had. And he starts off the show quite skeptical about the legitimacy of all this horror experiences they've had. So I don't know, there's an episode about a homophobic vase. True story. And he's just like, this vase probably doesn't, the normal skeptic stuff. And so there's two stories going on. Well, there's many, but there's the weekly episodic. What are these enchanted with? There's the weekly story of the singular statement, which is usually only a one or two parter. So statement of blah blah about blah blah, and it's a short horror piece about a spooky thing that's happened. And then there's the ongoing story of what's happening in the archives and all their jazz. And things happened. There's worms that burrow. John gets a boyfriend even. We're very proud of him. They're in love. And it's got this concept, which isn't like a new concept, but they display it quite well about separating fear into different categories of things to be afraid of, and each different category has a vibe. So like the eye, the fear of being watched, of your secrets being exposed, of people knowing what you're thinking and stuff about you. I'm lost. This spider, the fear of being controlled, of your actions not being your own, of there being some greater plan. Then there's stuff like the dark, which is the fear of the unknown, of the dark. It's so cool. I'm going to talk about it for even more time. And then what other ones? There's the not the rot, the infestation, something like that, which has got kind of this rotting bug theme, which is very, very good and I love. There's the buried, which is fear of being buried, the end, which is the fear of death, and they each encompass different things and each have different like aesthetics, I guess, to them. The lonely, fear of being alone. The hunt, which is the primal fear of being hunted, of something being after you. The slaughter, which is kind of oh god, that's so sweet. The slaughter, which is kind of more it was kind of explained as forming after the Industrial Revolution, where animals got mass killed and such. What other fears are there? The spiral, which is the fear of your own mind tricking you, of not being able to trust yourself, stuff like that. And so season 1 deals with a woman named Jane Prentice who's got worms. She's got worms. It's all wormy, and it's about them kind of discovering stuff. And each season, I think there's 5, and it's finishing up now, and it's completely different. And the conspiracy theories about the web, and now the audience is the character kind of through the tapes. And so like one of the other general premises is that all the statements are being recorded on cassette tapes, and that's how the podcast is being shown to us, is audio recorded on cassette tapes. So either a statement and people talking during a statement is being given, or they will turn it on specifically to document things, but the only times the audience gets to know stuff is if it's being recorded on a cassette tape. And so they've kind of made, it's implied right now, and it hasn't been like confirmed yet, but I think that's where they're going, is that the audience exist and are listening, and kind of them going, you enjoyed this horror podcast? Well, they know you exist now. Shame on you, audience. And it's really cool. And the author's name is Jonathan Sims, and he named the main character Jonathan Sims, and I just think that's hilarious. That you'd name your main character in your horror podcast after yourself. And it's very diverse. It's got, like I said, John gets a boyfriend. It's very cute. They're in love. It is a horror podcast, but I'm not that much affected by horror. I think I have a playlist of Magnus archive episodes that actually scared me, for like the ones that frightened me. And the playlist of these were the ones that were spooky, and I went to bed thinking about and got me spooked. Yeah, where are my bones? Maddie, where are my bones? Oh, and there's so that's the general idea, is these fears are entities that feed off human fear, and they create that fear using their own specific brand of scariness. Where's my bones? Maddie, do you see my bones? I do not see my bones. The bones ate each other, of course. And they're there. The entities... Yeah, so the first few bits of this series, I found my bones, don't worry. Yeah, people having interactions with fears, and then it keeps developing from there, and they're kind of described as gods a bit. There's this really cool metaphor about an anthill that I really liked. Imagine you are an ant in an anthill, and one day a giant eye comes down and peers through the hole in your anthill, and you run because it's spooky, but a foot comes down and tries to crush you, and you run from that too, and then a hand comes in and tries to smash you, and you run from that. Would the ant conceive of those three completely different things as the same entity? And the answer's like meant to be no, but they're kind of the same, and it's complicated and metaphorical. It was a good metaphor. I quite liked it. But the fears get like avatars, which get kind of special powers, and they fear. They feed off the fear, and they cults are formed like the lightless flame. There was one about fire and like the consumption of stuff. Anyway, the Vast. That's one of my favorites. It's all like, there's one about a guy who's just forever skydiving and never hits the ground, falling off things forever and ever and never getting anywhere. That was one of my favorites. There's one about a woman who gets trapped in a cave. Stuck in a train, stuff like that. It's really cool. It's a good podcast. It's on Spotify. You should listen to it. I'm trying not to spoil it too much because I do think you should listen to it. It's on like episode 200 and something, but I swear I've listened to it like 20 times. Elias Bouchard is a rat bastard and he sucks. And you should. The Magnus archives. There's like a bunch of horror podcasts in this world, but it is one of my favorites. I'm into podcasts, and it sometimes you go to sleep listening to it, and that is a bad idea, and you should not do that. My absolute favorite is like Infestation or something from Jane Prentice. It's so well written and very spooky, but listen to it. The Magnus archives. Because the archives were founded. Oh, I didn't know I could do that. By this guy called Jonah Magnus or Yona Magnus. I can't remember. The Stranger, the fear of like the unknown, and they're all mannequin-y and like what uncanny valley people. There's a name for it. And I found it quite useful when writing because it's got different aesthetics and you kind of pick one that you want your vibe to be, and it helps a lot with kind of keeping things concise. And there's so many conspiracy theories, and one thing I do really love about the show is when the fans guess correctly, they do not change it to make it a surprise still, because that pisses me off when, like, this idea that media has to shock you to be good and you can't guess the twist ending, and it's like, no, twists are supposed to be good. If someone guesses the twist ending, that means you're doing a good job writing your thing. And yes, this is an extremely pointed attack at Marvel, but so like because it's been running since like 2016 or something, a lot of the twists have got guessed and they just ran with it, and they're like, we're really proud that people have been paying enough attention to our podcast that you know, they would theorize and get it right. Also, John gets a lighter in like season 2 or something, and it's only just become relevant, and everyone's been wondering what the hell this lighter is for so long, and now we're all just like, oh my, oh goodness, oh gosh. Yeah, I think it's also on YouTube, but not all the episodes are out. Not all the recent ones, because they update it later. Listen to it. Listen to the podcast.